Thank you for joining us today. Anything you hear in this podcast is not to be taken for medical advice. This podcast is for information purposes only, and should you find something interesting in the information spoken about, please consult your physician further.
Hello and welcome to the Broken Road Podcast. I'm your host, Trent Peterson. I got Calleigh Archer with me today. This has been Men's Health Awareness Month for June, and Calleigh brought it up to me that it's also Migraine Awareness Month. So we're going to talk to her today a little bit about that. But among other things, she's been very integral to our family, and I'm glad to have you here today.
Yes, me too. I'm glad I'm here.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I'm a 20-year-old I'm a 20-year-old college student. I attend Tarleton State University. I'm about to actually graduate in August with my Bachelor's of Science in Agriculture Services and Development with a concentration in industries and agencies. So it's just a basic ag degree, and I could go into like extension if I wanted to or any of that. And then I also do the social media management for the Broken Road Project. And then I also work with Six String Development, which is your company as well. And I do a little bit of the office manager, personal assistant stuff there. And yeah.
Okay. So I think goes to say you're a pretty busy young lady. At
Yes.
20 years old, you're almost done with college, or you are done now?
I'm about to be. So I'm technically doing an internship with Six String for the summer. And then August 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, I graduate. And I possibly will be speaking at the graduation.
That's exciting.
Yeah. I have to do, in a couple of days, I have to do a public speaking competition between other candidates, and then, yeah.
So this is good practice then.
Yeah, definitely. This is way outside of my comfort zone. This is not me. I'm behind the camera type person, not in the spotlight.
You absolutely are, and have been from the beginning. But I think you got a lot of you're a beautiful young lady. You have a lot to talk about. I think it's just a matter of getting comfortable on the front of things. And man, I'm excited for you about that valedictorian speech.
Yeah.
So I hope you get to do that. I want to be there and celebrate that with you. That is way cool. At 20 years old is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Definitely. So on that, I know you liked me to talk about how fast I went through college. So I did dual credit in high school, which is why I was able to get out so fast.
Okay.
I kind of fast-tracked, really. I'm graduating with only 2 years in college. So
Yeah, that's I keep saying it, but that's amazing. I mean, it's just, for me, and I've talked about it on this before on this podcast, and most people that know me know that I had some really good opportunities, but I kind of just messed them up and didn't follow through. So I know that takes a lot of dedication, and you probably could have been doing a lot of other fun things with friends and running around, but you dedicated your time to getting ahead in the game, which is way commendable. It's super cool. Yeah,
definitely.
So I guess how do we know each other for the audience? How do we know each other?
My mom and dad, Bobby and Tori, they went to school with you at Prosper High School, which is also where I graduated from, but the second high school. It's the newer one now. But yeah.
She's calling me old.
Yeah. And so my parents met you, and from what I understand, y'all kind of had been disconnected for a while, and my dad actually...
many years.
Yeah, I was trying to actually, during my junior year, I was trying to find a place for my horse to go, and my dad was he knew you were out here, and we were kind of trying to set that up whenever I figured out, because I applied early to get into college.
Right.
So I got accepted early too. And so we knew I was going to be coming out here, and so he looked up the county records, because last he knew you were living here, and so he saw that you have property around here. And so we kind of, whenever I came to Tarleton, I think my dad reached out to you, and we ended up connecting at Grumps.
Yeah, he actually posted something about being proud of you, is how that went down on Facebook. And I said, hey, by the way, we're out here, right? old friend. And I had never met you or known you, and you were 20 years old. So that says a lot about how long the disconnect was. But always loved both of your parents, always good friends. Just time goes on, and we moved out here and really kind of lost touch with a lot of people. So it was cool to get to meet you at Grumps,
Yeah.
and then find out about you, and felt like I'd known you forever, when I did meet you. You have that kind of personality, just
Yeah.
very approachable person. So that's awesome.
I guess then I also, after I met you, this is a funny story.
Okay.
After I met you, you were like, just let me know if you need anything, if you need bailed out or whatever. And actually, the next week, my battery in my car went out.
Yeah.
And so you came to the dorms and helped me get that changed.
Yeah, you used that card like right off the bat. You're like, here, I'm going to go ahead and cash this one in.
Yeah, I'm not typically that person, but I was like, I don't have anybody else, so.
And she had tried a lot, just so everybody understands. Her dad she has her own toolbox. She knows how to work on things. Not only is she smart, she's also very crafty and able to take care of herself. So her hadn't asked me, she was really in a bind at that point. So
Yeah. And then I was looking for a job, and so I don't think y'all know this, I was anti asking y'all because I was like, that's really weird. Like, I'm just not into, or I used to not really be into the networking thing, and I didn't feel comfortable enough to ask people for help, I guess. And so my dad was like, just ask them if they know anybody that's looking for like somebody that could use somebody, a college student, because nobody around here hires. So
right.
And then you actually were like, oh, I think actually we could probably use somebody. So that's how I started working with you.
Yeah, and I don't think Amber and I had any idea what we were getting whenever you came in to be part of our family and work situation. But you've been integral to everything we've done and super big help. I feel like you and Corey both were kind of a godsend right there, or were, not kind of, were a godsend there when I had my stroke, because Amber would have been all alone.
Yeah.
So there was some time there where Amber had to stay with me at the hospital, and you and Corey kind of held down the fort because we'd already started that project. Last picture on my phone before the stroke was a job site with the dirt done,
Yeah.
So we were about to rock and roll on it. So thank you very much for being there. Super important person in her life, and I'm glad you're here today.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just look at my notes here. We just kind of went over the project. I had that on here. It's probably nice to kind of be done with that. I know there was a lot of paperwork involved. A whole new situation for you, right?
Definitely.
Basically, School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, it was.
Excuse me.
It was probably the craziest thing that's, especially I'm very type A, that I planner, schedule. And so once you had your stroke, it was just, what's going on? Everybody didn't know what was going on. I had only been working with y'all for about 4 months and really had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
So I was trying really hard to figure out what I needed to be done with like QuickBooks, how to help with the project. So definitely once we finished, for me, it was a little bit of a relief, but I also we finished the job, and then I started 2 weeks of 9 to 5 school, literally right after that.
The grind. Go from the grind right back into the grind.
Yeah, I just got to keep pushing, and I was like, I just need to make it to June 2nd, and then basically working full-time as an internship with y'all.
Right.
And doing kind of sixth string in the background, but mainly the Broken Road. And so it was definitely a lot there at the end, just powering through the I don't know, what do you call it? The push through, not the push through.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said the grind, but
the grind, yeah.
Just pushing through to the end. Most people.
The punch out.
The punch list. Oh yeah.
Doing the punch out list, and that was very just do, and then it was, we're done, but I gotta keep do.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things I want to say on all that. First of all, there's some people that will laugh about this that know me well, but you came into learning Trent books is what they
Yes.
called it. So I ran off of QuickBooks, but I also had a lot of it right here. And that was a learning lesson in general for me and everyone. What happens when Trent goes down, It's like losing the hard drive with all the info on it. So there was a lot of things that were lost in there that y'all had to cover a lot of ground really fast
Yeah.
to keep the ball moving.
And figuring whenever, especially once you had your stroke, being only 4 months into the job, no prior experience in QuickBooks or anything, let
Right.
alone Trent books. And so it was, it was definitely a learning curve, but I think I thrive on that. I thrive on the chaos sometimes. And so I learned a lot during that time period of just figuring out and I was trying those 4 months, I was trying before you had your stroke. You need to star this, and I was trying to figure out
You
a
were
system.
trying to help me get my stuff together so that you could understand what I had going on.
That almost helped a little bit in a way, because there was some stuff that you had actually done that I was like, thank God he did this, or else I would be completely like in the trenches, like yeah.
So and I think that just all goes to attest to what kind of person you are and what you're capable of doing. I mean, it's just almost unheard of at 20 years old for somebody to maintain the college, basically learn how to run a business is what you did to help Amber, because Amber wasn't really on the bookwork side of it. So you picked that up. So I'm kind of curious, as that went along, did that make you think about your college education and the future of what you were going to do and your capabilities? Did it change your outlook a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually went into college majoring in ag education to go and to eventually become a high school ag teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started working with y'all, and I was like, I kind of like this, especially around, you had your stroke in May, and then I think around, I would say October, November, I started kind of being like, okay, I was planning for the internship with y'all, and I was thinking, I kind of like this. I like all of it, every aspect, the design aspect, the plans, I was playing around with that a little bit before you had your stroke. That's something in high school they always had us do, was take career tests, like what our perfect career was, and mine happened to be architecture every time, and I
super talented at that. I've already seen some of the work you did on Home Designer Pro, which for you I think was probably even easier than it was for me, and I spent a lot of time. I felt like I was pretty good at it, but I watched you learn it in half the time.
Just playing around with it, because it's definitely something I learned to like, and I was like, so I eventually got to the point where I was like, I want to work with y'all, and then maybe eventually, and I don't think I told y'all this, but maybe eventually as y'all got older, take over Sixth String or branch out and do my own development company and own it. And that's kind of what I've been telling people is my dream was. But I think now, I don't really know what my dream is. I'm kind of letting God take me. I'm learning you're learning how to be more planned, and I'm learning a little bit how to be less planned and let God take the reins for me.
We're both on a journey right now of kind of relearning ourselves and figuring out what God's plans for it is. Because obviously things have changed a lot for both of us in the last year.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. So I got notes here, but while we're there talking about that, I kind of like to keep going on this before we get to the grit, because this is all building up to what we're really gonna talk about. So you also picked up the load of the Broken Road project, which was an idea that it was a calling that I had when I was in therapy. I think my phone died.
You don't need the notes. It's okay.
That's all right. When I was in therapy, that I wanted to help people, and I did like talking to people when I was up there. Even some of the people that were kind of hard to communicate with, it felt like that was something I was supposed to do. So, for you and Amber both, then I'm like, hey, by the way, this is something I want to do too. So I put that load on your plate. I think you're your own worst enemy. You have a hard time saying no to us.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how that goes in the rest of your life, but for us, you've been very giving. And so you picked that up and have taken it off running, and it's just, I think you're doing a great job with it too.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm trying to figure it out. Yesterday during work, that's what I did. I researched kind of a little bit more into things. So it's a process of researching, creating, posting, seeing what works, doesn't work, kind of thing, and just yeah. But that's definitely a fault of mine is taking on too much. I have a problem saying no to people, but I also with this it almost felt like a calling to me too, that like this is something I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I wanted to do, and so I'm really enjoying it, and feel like, especially now that I've gone to a hospital and actually gone out and done the mission, I feel it's very fulfilling. I will say that, and that's something I've always, I want to be a world changer, but I've always been like, I'm just a young teenage girl. I can't do anything. And so that gave me the opportunity to go out and actually make an impact in somebody's life. And so, and even just doing the social media was already fulfilling a little bit. And then adding the mission on top of it, actually going out and doing that was amazing. I never felt better. And I'm an anxious person, you know that, and I know you were worried about me being a little bit anxious in that situation, but I was cool as a cucumber, as they say.
Well, that's cool. I mean, when the spirit's, when it's right, it's right. When the spirit's moving, I don't think you have to put a lot of effort into it. So I'm glad you were comfortable in that. And I really think, we're just like barely scratching the surface of what we're going to be able to do with the Broken Road Project. I mean, we're still waiting for all the approvals and all that. You have a lot of stuff in the background that's already worked up and ready to go as soon as that drops.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, that's when we're going to be looking for volunteer help and stuff like that, because there's no way you and I and Amber can do that alone. And there's a lot of people out there that are willing to spend their time doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's something. Is that's something really important, is the fact that all these people do want to change the world. We, like us three, for example, we want to change the world. We want to make an impact, but we can't do it alone, and so we have to have volunteers. And so if you're somebody who wants to change the world, that's something for you, is to volunteer. And it's you don't have to donate. You can volunteer your time. Just That's volunteering your time to go and make a dent in somebody's life and show that we care. We love everybody.
And I don't think it has
want
to
to
be
support them.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be with the Broken Road podcast or project. That's
in
with
general.
Anybody in general. I can't pound that home enough, or drive that enough, that fulfillment. And you just said it. You did feel it, the same thing that I did. I mean, it's it is something different. It makes sense. It's like, okay, well, we sit here and we push and we work really hard to achieve these things, but there's still sometimes very little fulfillment in that.
Yeah.
But it's hard to describe the fulfillment for helping somebody.
Yeah, and I think something that's really important to drive home too is that a lot of people think with nonprofits that donations are a really big thing.
Absolutely.
But they think that's the only way that they can give. Mm-hmm. The biggest way you can give to any nonprofit, not just the Broken Road Project, is to give your time. Right. You don't have to, if you can't financially give, like I'm a college student, I can't financially give.
Right.
So I definitely want to branch out and do other nonprofits just for personal fulfillment in mm-hmm. different areas. And but giving your time is really, really important, and it's much more than just the donations. It's actually going out and giving your time to even just create care packages or writing letters to people just to make an impact in somebody's life. Because mm-hmm. you can change the world, not as a whole, but one person at a time, and eventually it'll get to a very broad spectrum of, well, this person impacted me, so I'm gonna, it's a domino effect. They're going to go
Absolutely.
out and donate their time to other people, and that's what you want.
Yeah, and Corey, I said it. Of course, he took it from somebody else, and you may know where that came from. But that a lot of people spell love Time, and you're saying it right there.
Yeah.
You know, goes a long ways. You know,
Yeah, 100%.
I was not that person before the stroke. I was too busy, like doing my own thing, to take the time out and do the little things that make such a huge difference. I mean, we're talking. How long were you there when you went for that visit?
It was at night, and I only brought food to his son. But at first, I don't even think they were going to let me in the room. He was just going to meet me downstairs. And then, we started chit-chatting, and then we went upstairs, and he actually was like, you know what, go ahead and come in.
Yeah.
And so I was there for about 15 minutes, and we were talking, and it was, even though it was just a little bit of time, I know it meant a lot to him in the hospital, his son, and his mother-in-law, who I was in contact with a lot.
Yeah.
I try not to say names, but
No, that's
out of
okay.
respect. But she had contacted me and was like, you have no idea how much this actually meant. And so.
And I think that's the point I was trying to make. You had way more time than 15 minutes wrapped up in it, but that 15 minutes that you spent with them probably will never be forgotten.
Yeah.
Like a very special moment there. And I'm proud of you for going and doing that. Like I said, at 20 years old, you got a lot of things you'd be doing other than that. But you have picked up a torch and you run with it, and I love it. That's so cool. So to kind of wrap back around, now we've talked about how busy of a person you are, and all these things you've done. I didn't realize it when we met. I kind of, to give it some perspective, I used to give you a hard time. I'd come in the office and it was dark in there. I'm like, what are you doing in here? I was like, are you a vampire?
Yes.
I gave you a hard time. It was dark in there, and you didn't complain much, and you didn't say much. You were just like, I just like it this way. And you were also always cold, and I am hot-natured, so we were fighting the air conditioner thermostat all the time.
Yeah.
And if we weren't, you were bundled up like you were in the middle of winter or something. And so, but come to find out, you've had some medical struggles along the way, which kind of wraps us back into June being Migraine Awareness Month. Let's talk about that and some of the struggles that you deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah. So starting off, I was born with congenital hypothyroidism, which means I don't have a working thyroid, or I just don't have a thyroid at all. We don't really know. We never got like a scan. So I just have been telling people my whole life, I don't have one.
Right.
It's much easier to explain it that way. So 5 days old, I got put on Synthroid to give me that. And the thyroid is very important for your hormones. It's just very important overall. And so my mom wanted me to talk about the importance of having a heel test done whenever you give birth or have a baby.
What is that?
And so the heel test is where they take the baby's heel, and it's like an immediate thing. Like whenever they take the child away, it's like one of the first things they do is prick the heel and get blood out of the heel, and they run a very large panel for everything. And something that's really important, it's mandated in the state of Texas, but actually in other states it's not. And so if you're from other states, that's something, and you're planning on having children, that's something you probably want to look into, is because I would have a lot of learning disabilities or developmental issues if they didn't catch it right away,
So that's something they had to, basically, you were saying they put you on some medication right off the bat because that test alone told them, hey, you got some thyroid issues. There's some things your body's not going to generate that you need.
Yeah. So, and typically, I've done a little bit of research as I've gotten older on this. So at like 10 days old is typically when, if you're not on Synthroid by then, that's when you start getting learning disabilities. You're going to grow up and have other developmental disabilities. Mm-hmm. And so I was lucky enough, they caught mine fairly fast, and I got on it within 5 days. But that's something I definitely deal with, I guess, on a daily basis. It doesn't seem to really affect me other than like constantly cold. Like it's the middle of summer and I'm in a sweater, jeans, and fuzzy socks. So
Yeah, she says things don't affect her. We're talking about a tough girl here. Yeah, carry on. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But so with that, the only way it's really affected me is I was really bad at taking my medicine. It's something I have to take every day for the rest of my life, and it's Synthroid, so it's synthetic thyroid for the hormones and glands and stuff. And so back when COVID hit, it was, I think, 2021. I had quit taking my medicine because my mom typically in the morning before work, she would give me my medicine and I would take it. But then it got to a point where she's like, you're a junior in high school, you need to start taking it. And so for a minute I was taking it, and then I kind of just fell off. It's just, something that slips my mind, even though I've been taking it every day for my entire life. And so
typical teenager.
Yeah, definitely a typical teenager with that. And so with that, I had quit taking my medicine for probably 5 days at this point, and I'm on my second week of my junior year, and I get COVID. And so I got COVID. My best friend had it actually at the same time, and she doesn't have any ailments or anything. And so within 2 days, she was FaceTiming me because we were still in the quarantine, and she's perfectly fine. She's jumping around, dancing, whatever. And I felt like I was on my deathbed. Like, it was horrible. It was the worst. Like, whenever I get sick, it's pretty bad because of my thyroid, because it lowers my immune system, right? Not having a thyroid. And so whenever I got COVID, it got really bad, where I was just sick as a dog, like on the couch. I couldn't move. My body was hurting so bad. I had started getting mucus in my lungs. And so my mom took me to the doctor, and I actually started getting pneumonia from it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
and
not
so,
good.
Yeah. And so my mom found out then that I wasn't taking my Synthroid. And so we started taking that, and I got on a bunch of steroids and antibiotics and stuff. But yeah, definitely, like, I have to be very careful about, like, being around other people that are sick, like with viruses and stuff, because my immune system is naturally weaker because I don't have a thyroid.
Okay.
And that's one of the biggest ways that impacts me, I guess.
For sure. Okay, so you got that you deal with on a daily basis and have since you were born. So you haven't let that hold you back. Then I come to find out that you also have migraines.
Yes.
And when we say migraines, we're not talking about like just a little take a Tylenol headache, right?
Yeah, no. So actually, what my neurologist says, what I consider a headache compared to a migraine. So if I'm having just a little bit of pain, that's actually a typical migraine for somebody who doesn't suffer with chronic migraines.
Right.
And so I have a higher pain tolerance when it comes to that. So whenever I do have a migraine and I'm like down, it's really bad.
So is that why you would have the lights dimmed and stuff like that at work? Is that part of that?
Yeah. So I started getting migraines.
I got you lit up right now.
Yeah.
I hope it's not bothering you
Yeah,
too much.
no, it's not too bad. I started getting migraines, I would say, probably late elementary school. And so it was just almost like I had a constant headache. It was, I would say, 20 to 25 days out of every month I had some sort of headache or migraine. And so I actually didn't get diagnosed with it until after I graduated high school, because at my graduation, the lights, the sound, everything was really bad, and I had these two specific people behind me at graduation that were screaming in my ear. And so I had an awful migraine to the point where I regret my whole graduation, but I had a panic attack because after we graduated, because my head was hurting so bad, and my whole family was there, And so we snapped one quick picture as a big family, and then we left, and then I felt horrible. But so after that, my mom really got me into her neurologist, which it took her forever to. She also has chronic migraines, and my grandma does, my great grandma did.
So it's something genetic. What was the diagnosis? You said you got diagnosed. What did they diagnose you with?
Chronic migraines.
Chronic migraines.
Yeah.
But no, they still don't know what's causing that migraine at this point.
So I actually bypassed the MRI originally with the migraines, which that's typically because we explained to my neurologist, it's a genetic thing. My aunts, my cousins, and they all see basically the same neurologist. So they bypassed the MRI. So they didn't really know what was going on in my brain. They still kind of don't. I recently did have an MRI due to another situation that we went ahead and sent over to my neurologist anyways. But I don't have anything bad going on in my brain, I guess. And so that's good, but it's just a matter of genetics and having that. But on a daily basis, it definitely, I've kind of cut it down with medicine, and I can manage it. I would say I probably get 10 to 15 days now instead of 20 to 25 days out of the month that I get a migraine. And they're not all debilitating where I'm like, so most of the time I can push through them and just, because I gotta work. I can't not do anything, I guess. So
I agree, but I'm thinking that probably for a lot of people they would be debilitating. I think you're just used to it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I wanted to talk about all the things that you've been able to, the success that you've had in life to this point while fighting that in the background and not complaining. I see a lot of people that want to make up excuses for why they can't achieve their dreams and why they can't get something they want. And a lot of times it's either because of, oh, woe is me, or this is happening to me. And sometimes that's a legitimate thing. I do get it. I don't want to be insensitive to the fact that there are some things that do prevent people from doing things they want.
Yeah.
But perspective's everything. So I think you can find other things. There's things you can, if you're trying and wanting, because you could have easily given up through those headaches and stayed in the closet and been like, man, I can't go do this college thing. It's too hard to do these extra classes in school. And then when we asked you and put a lot on your plate, on top of what you were already trying to learn how to do, you could have said no on that, but you just take it and go with it. And super impressive, and has been since the day I met you.
Yeah, I don't know if that's, I don't know what it is that drives me, but I think probably the anxiety a little bit, because it's like I have a to-do list, and so if I'm sitting there with my to-do list of these things that I can't miss these things, and so in my head, I guess I justify it to myself you're either gonna sit here in pain and agony or with the anxiety of just I have all this stuff to do, or I'm gonna get up and do it. Right. And so I sometimes this is something at Sixth String while you were still in rehab that I printed out some papers and stuck them to the walls in the office for me and Amber and Corey, and it's just the Nike logo thing, just do it, because sometimes just with anything, sometimes you just have to take the risk and do it. And even if that means going out and I have a horrible migraine, but I'm going to go out and just do it, get it done, and do it to the best of my ability at that time. And at least I did it. At least I knew I put in the effort, Right.
Well, and that's the hardest part of anything in life, for sure on a job, is following through and getting to the finish line.
Yeah.
I always say, as far as construction goes, because that's what I've always done, that kind of separates, your really good, top-notch contractors from your so-so, is being able to take you across the finish line with them. That's not an easy thing. So I think it's the same thing in life. that determines your success. And what you're going to do is that ability to cross the finish line in what you do. Life's a marathon. My recovery is a marathon. This is a long distance run. So trying to or expecting a positive outcome instantly is just not a realistic view on what things are like. Life's not that way.
Yeah, definitely. So I just tell myself I gotta keep going. There are times, I know you said I don't complain a lot, but I'm sure Matthew would disagree with that.
Well, you got to complain. You got to vent to somebody.
Yeah, he's always telling me, you're never in great health, right? You're never 100% health. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Especially most of the women in my family are like that. And my dad told him from the beginning, this is
Get ready.
And yeah, but I definitely just keep on pushing. I'm on 2 different types of medicine right now for that. Mm-hmm. So I take one every night to prevent them, and then if I do get one, it's called an acute pill, and so that's supposed to kill it right when it starts. Now, remembering to take it right when it starts, or remembering to keep some in my car and in the house and wherever I am. I'm all over the place too, so that doesn't help either, is because I'm traveling a lot at the same time. So,
and we're not medical professionals, but obviously you got a lot of experience with that. So can people reach out and kind of ask questions if they have questions about that?
And definitely feel free to reach out on my personal account or on the Broken Road Project, because I am the social media manager, so I'll see it.
Okay. Yeah, and you'll make sure and put those links in there so that people can get a hold of us. Yeah, you've done a great job on that too. I'm really excited to see where we're going to go with that. So just put another feather in your hat, let's be a social media manager as well, which I see you having a lot of success in that. I really think that you're the kind of person that college was really just a formality. I think you can probably teach yourself anything you wanted and really do it with books, not ever have to really go to have a teacher teach you. You are a very motivated person.
I think so too. I can pretty much hop online, figure out we call it a rabbit hole, and Gen Z is what we call it.
We jump down rabbit holes all the time.
Rabbit holes, and so I will see something online or in a book, and I'm like, what is this? And so I go into I could be in the middle of the night and dive down for 5 hours researching whatever topic it is or anything, and so I can throw myself really into I have a lot of knowledge on a lot of niche things.
Is there anything that you could say to our audience to kind of, other than what you've already said, is super inspiring and motivational, but people that are struggling, particularly with migraines, but through any sickness, and trying to reach goals? Is there anything you could say to them that would inspire them or help them, motivate them to achieve the goals they want? I know we've kind of gone over that a couple times now, but I really want to drive it home.
If I could, I guess, give some inspiring words, I guess, to people who suffer with migraines, is that you're not alone. Definitely not alone. There's more people out there than you think that suffer with this going on, and it's okay not to be okay and not to feel well that day. And I know I think today's post is actually about chronic migraines going up, and so it's an invisible illness, and that's hard to cope with, is the fact that I look perfectly fine on the outside, but I could be having the worst migraine ever right now, and the lights hurt, the sound hurts, the wind touching my face hurts, and everything. But for me personally, I just kind of keep on pushing through it. But I will tell somebody. I will tell my boyfriend, or I'll tell somebody, hey, I'm not doing okay. Amber sent me home one day because she, it gets to the point sometimes where it's really bad, where sunglasses inside. Right. And so we're in the middle of the project on site, and I came over and I had sunglasses and just was in the corner. And she's like, "Do you have a migraine?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I told her, like, I'm going to keep pushing or whatever. And she's like, "No, you take the rest of the day off." But I think sometimes the best thing I can say is you can push yourself as much as you can, but eventually there are going to be times, I push myself all the time, but there are times that I have to say, okay, I need to rest. I need to sit in a dark room and cry,
Right.
because it hurts so bad. And so I think you're not alone in the journey of suffering with that. And I think that you should try to push yourself with it and try to get as much as you can done, but you also need to realize when you need to rest your body and rest your brain.
Give yourself grace.
And give yourself grace. That's something I'm definitely learning, is that just in all things, I'm super, on top of everything. And so I'm trying to learn to give myself grace whenever I think to my standards I fall short and other people are like, "You're excelling," and I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Well, and a lot of driven people feel like they are alone kind of in that struggle. So I can only imagine having an invisible disease. I can totally understand that, because people look at me and they're like, you got to be fine. But I got a lot of things going on that you can't see.
Yeah.
But having a support group, which is really hard to find, having people that you can be really honest with, like you're saying, Matt, or your parents, or Amber and I, that's important too. And not everybody's able to have that. That's part of the reason why we're doing what we do, is to make sure that nobody feels alone in that battle, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something, support group is definitely, I have a natural support group with my parents, or my mom, and all my aunts and my cousins.
Right.
Because they suffer with them too. And so we get to the point where we talk about it a lot. And then, but I think if it's not a genetic thing and you don't have that, you need to go out and there's Instagram pages that talk about even just finding online where you can relate and say, I relate to this post tremendously. My mom sends me all the time. The American Migraine Foundation, they have an Instagram. There's also full-on Instagrams just dedicated to that. And I'm sure there's a podcast somewhere for it, but...
Right. And maybe we can link some of those below too, for those, everybody have access to those resources that have been helpful to you.
Definitely.
Which is our goal. So, got River, my son, is actually our production manager today. Okay, he says we're at 44 minutes. We got a little time left. I try to at least get to an hour. So we're learning here still.
Yeah.
But 45 minutes is pretty good too at the same time. But I do have a couple other things. So, and you didn't have any time to answer these questions or think about them. But what do you see, or possible, I know you have some, but ideas for the future for the Broken Road Project and or podcast, and things that you're seeing as a social media manager that are going to be coming up, and how we're going to try to structure this to make the most out of it?
I definitely think something that I want to add to the Broken Road Project, which I kind of did the other day, is this kind of stems, it was my mom's idea. Originally, back in 2020, my great-grandmother was in a nursing home, and so they weren't allowed to see any family or anything. And so my mom had the idea to bring them little teddy bears that were like huggable to
just keep knocking that thing around.
No, to keep because they weren't able to see their loved ones. Nobody was allowed in or out of that place. It was locked down.
Right.
And so we put little T-shirts on them that said Mimi's Crew, and we sent them to the nursing home, mailed them there to get sanitized and everything, and then they got passed out. And that's something, whenever they opened back up, was the residents of the place were like, you have no idea how much this helped us. And so I want to kind of do that for people in the hospital or in rehab whenever, even some people can be there just by themselves for 5 minutes while somebody goes downstairs to get lunch, but they are so lonely and so upset, or people who are grieving. And so I kind of want to do that with teddy bears. I have the Broken Road Project shirt on.
Oh, cool.
And so that's what I want to do personally. Some things that I definitely think we could do with the social media itself is I want to start a LinkedIn. I know it sounds very like LinkedIn's not, it's kind of out there, but that's where a lot of big donors will go out to LinkedIn to find their nonprofit organizations that align with their values.
Right.
And so I think that's a good way for us. But I also want to eventually start planning events where we host support events or something, like the Broken Road Project picnic or something like that, where people can come and then we give support, and we make care packages, or do at this picnic where we do things that we can send out eventually, and that helps support the people in either the hospital or the rehab, or even just out, even if they're out, like people like you could use probably somebody writing you a letter saying, you're not alone. We're here for you. We're here to support you. And so I think that's definitely something I see us doing in the future.
I think those small little reach outs like that are huge.
Yeah.
Even for me, I'm definitely, people don't see all the things. I have my days too. Everybody does. Even a perfectly healthy person still has those days where just a kind word goes a long ways, So that's some really cool ideas. Yeah, I'm excited about that. The if I could, I'd like the idea about the stuffed animal. River gave me the creeper doll. And there's probably maybe we can put a picture on this podcast to kind of describe it. But the other day, and it was huge for me to have that. I'm a grown man. I was hold on to, but it was awesome to have that. And I thought of him when I was holding it and my family. And it just gave me a sense of security and closeness to them when he wasn't there.
Yeah.
So exactly what you described.
I know it seems a little weird trying to give grown men and women, stuffed animals, but you plant the seed in their mind of this stuffed animal is used for what you think you're going to use it for. So if you're missing your family, if you lost somebody, use this to remind you of that person. Use this to give you a hug when nobody else can. So I think that's really important. And I think something important to talk about definitely is how a lot of the people that we're going to support, that our mission kind of supports, they're dealing with physical ailments. But part of the physical ailments is the mental, the hard having to cope with, I'm not the same person I was. I struggle on a daily basis. I feel like I'm missing out because of this ailment. And so I think supporting people mentally is definitely a goal that we should keep at the top of our list, because people struggle physically all the time, but the mental is really where what can really, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I think
be
you're
hard.
saying it. Yeah, it is the hardest. I don't know. I can't say the hardest part because everybody's dealing with different things. But eventually, when the dust settles from whatever trauma you've been through, if it's a medical type trauma, losing limbs, or a stroke, or TBI, or CIPD.
But you go through the mental of all of that, the trauma.
The smells of, there's just certain things that trigger certain memories. And then, like, I think you said it really well when you talk about you kind of miss who you were. Like, that gets stuck in your head, and it'll bring you down so fast, getting stuck in that place. Because, and that, I try to tell people I didn't always talk this way or totally even follow that way. But, Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. God's not there to bring you down.
Yeah.
This is his playhouse. And then, if he can find a way to make you hurt or bring you down, ruin your life, that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So you got to keep your focus on God and make sure that that's where you're at all the time.
And I want to kind of touch on that, what you just said.
Okay.
That's something I struggle with. Is I used to ask my mom all the time, why is this bad thing happening to me? Why is God allowing this bad thing to happen to me? Mm-hmm. And she says, it took me forever. She just would repeat it over and over again every time I asked her. And she's like, this is not God doing this bad thing to you. Mm-hmm. It is Satan doing the bad thing to you. But God knows that you're going to push through it, and mm-hmm. you're going to become a better person because of it.
That's right.
And that took me way too long, because I remember asking her constantly, why is this happening? Why is God letting this bad thing happen to me? Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to understand and get through. But I think it's really important that we realize that it's not God that's doing these bad things, but God knows that it's going to happen, because he knows Satan's going to do these bad things to us. Right. I forget what story it is, but he's going to...
In Job?
Job, yes. Mm-hmm. And Job, where, God said, test him, test right. Job. And so that's what...
Yeah, just don't take his life.
Don't take his life. But he did everything to the point where his, almost there. Mm-hmm. And so I think... reading that story, I actually studied that a couple weeks ago, and that helped clear it up a lot.
Right.
But that's something, is definitely putting your faith in God and knowing that it's not him that's doing, I don't have migraines because God has migraines. It's a test that Satan's putting on me.
Right.
And that's something I think that motivates me now, is right. Satan's just testing me. I got to keep pushing.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, when you're having those hard times, anybody that doesn't know Jesus and doesn't have that time to pray and reflect and stop, he's just driving at you, yeah. tearing you down, laughing the whole time at you, because, he doesn't care. Satan doesn't care how you feel. He wants you to be broke yep. and torn down. And God's going to mend that. You just got to let that happen, and have faith in that. So,
yeah,
it's a crazy, crazy life. I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, and
being open about that. I know this is not your normal thing to
not
do,
at all.
But you did really good. And I always enjoy visiting with you. So, yeah. Inspiring to me. I hope it was inspiring to everybody else. So, is there anything else you'd like to say before we close out?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll try to get this out as soon as possible. And God bless.
God bless.